our next two guests, in 2009 I saw them performing separately, and in 2010 they decided to combine forces, and they rocked the Birmingham Library earlier on this year with their rendition of Anansi and the Storybox. And for their performance they were awarded the titles of Young Storytellers of 2010. Would you please whoop, shriek, clap and make some noise for Jono and Sam?
Once there were no stories in the world. They all belonged to the sky god Nyame. Now, Anansi, who's a little African trickster spider god who often turns up in African folktales, he decided he was going to get his hands on Nyame's stories. So he sidled up to him and he said, "Nyame, how much for those stories I hear you have?"
Now Nyame, he was rather bemused by this, so he turned and he said, "My books of stories, Anansi. If you want my books of stories, I shall set you a high price."
Marvellous, everyone's got a price. Name it.
I want you to bring me back Onini the Python.
Onini the Python?
I want you to bring me back the spots from a saber the leopard.
A saber the leopard?
I want you to bring me back the Umbora hornets.
All of them?
And I want you to bring me back Moataya the fairy.
Now, you didn't become a trickster spider god without negotiating. 10,000.
The fee is not negotiable, Anansi.
20,000.
Not negotiable.
Go for broke. 30,000.
Shoot, little spider. Shoot.
Now Anansi figured he might as well go off and find all these things that Nyame wanted. So he decided to start off by finding Onini the Python. Now, Onini the Python, he was going to be no walk in the park to capture, as he was. You know those London bendy buses? 4 of those stacked up in a line? He was longer than him easy.
When he unhinged his jaw, elephants would turn him the other way.
But, like all great creatures,
he had one great flaw. He was incredibly vain. Longest python in all of Africa, possibly even longest python in all of the world. And that's gone to his head a little bit. And so,
Anansi
decided
to use this
in his plan.
So what he did, he found the tallest palm tree he could find, and he sawed it down at the base. And he started to walk around the forest with it, having a chat with it, as you do. No way.
Not a chance, he'd say.
No way.
No, there's no chance. You're longer than him, he'd exclaim. No, don't give me that attitude. You shall ask him if you want, but, wow.
Now, Onini had been overhearing all this, so he slithered down from the treetops and he said, "Who is longer than whom?"
It's just my friend the palm tree, Onini. He thinks he's longer than him. I'm telling him he's not, but, well, palm trees will be palm trees, won't they?
Well, you lie your friend's a palm tree down next to me. I will lie down beside him and then we will see who is longer.
And so Anansi did, and he laid down palm tree, Onini, he laid down beside him. Onini just couldn't keep still. Something in a python's anatomy refuses to let them be still. They die or something silly like that, I don't know. But Anansi, he couldn't get a proper reading of Onini, and then it hit him. Onini, why don't I tie you to the palm tree, so then you won't have to wriggle around, and we can find out who's longer.
Very well.
And before you can say, "Cracky, I have been tied to a tree," Onini the python had been tied to a tree.
Crikey, I've been tied to a tree!
And so, with one very annoyed python tied to a palm tree, that was one down.
And 3 to go. But a saber the leopard, he wasn't going to be any easier, as he was, nigh on 20 foot tall, with teeth like God's knife drawer.
His fur had the intensity of the sun's flames, and his spots were as dark as midnight.
But, like all great creatures,
he had one great flaw. He liked his drink. He was a bit of a party animal, truth be told.
Bit of a lightweight too.
And so,
Anansi
decided
to use this
in his plan.
So what he did, he sent an invitation for a Sabo to come round for a drink, and of course the Sabo couldn't say no.
Oh, who could? Anansi was the legendary host of Africa.
Plus there was free booze laid on.
It's all good, isn't it? And so, before a Sabo set out to Anansi's home, Anansi went out, and between their 2 homes, he dug a very deep hole, the relevance of which shall be explained later, please rest assured.
But anyway, a Sabo, he turned up at Anansi's house, he greeted him, "Hey,
how you been, man?"
They cracked out the booze, they had a drink.
And they chatted.
They had another drink.
And they ate.
They had another drink.
And they danced.
They had another drink.
They sang.
They had another drink.
They played their instruments.
They had another drink.
And And another.
And another.
And another.
And another.
And another.
And another. And another. I love you, man. I want to tell you, you're my best mate. I love you.
And this went on for 4 days and 4 nights.
And by the eve of the 5th day, Severn figured it was time he was heading off home. So he thanked Anansi, cheers for the booze, man.
No problem, no problem.
And he set off in that characteristic leopard way,
Off like a lightning bolt.
but also in that characteristic drunk way of not exactly knowing where his feet were.
And so, going in his wiggling, winding yet speeding, leopardy way, he didn't see the hole which Anansi had dug earlier, and
Hit the bottom of it so hard, all his spots flew off him. You ever wonder about where the phrase knock the spots off someone comes from?
this is it, ladies and gentlemen, this is it.
But anyway, as Sabo, he rubbed his head. He clambered out of that hole and he staggered off.
Now Anansi was at the top of that hole as quick as he could think. Bag in hand, dropped down, found all those spots, threw them in the bag, and threw the bag over his shoulder, and with the spots of a very drunk leopard in his hand, that was 2 down.
And 2 to go. But the Umboro Hornets were going to be no easier, as they were little black and yellow bullets of evil.
Evil!
Evil!
Evil! Their mass numbers could turn a noonday sky dark, and their poison so virulent
Can make a man's face swell up like a pomegranate.
before he'd even been stung.
But, like all great creatures,
They had one great flaw. Water. They hated the sight of it, and the sound of it, and the smell of it, and... Does water even have a smell?
does now.
And so,
Anansi
decided
to use this.
in his plan.
So what he did, using his 8 arms, he got one bag, kept it empty. He kept another bag, filled it full of water, and got a big leaf and held it over his head. And he went over to where the Umboro Hornets were, started pouring the water over the back of the leaf so it looked like it was raining. Lads, he'd go, it's raining something awful out here. Quick, get into this nice, dry sack.
And so the buzzing, swirling ball of black and yellow death flew into Anansi's bag, and
Tied it up,
he chained it up,
welded it shut.
and he corked it.
They weren't getting out of that sack anytime soon.
Oh no, sirree. And so, with a bag full of irascible hornets, that was 3 down.
And 1 to go.
You should tell them.
I think they need to be told.
One dangerous little fairy to go. Because not only was Moatire invisible,
Not only was she magical,
not only could she kill whatever she wanted just by touching it if she was the slightest bit annoyed,
but she had a temper shorter than she was.
granted, she was pretty sure.
But, like all great creatures,
She had one great flaw. It's a lifesaver, really, isn't it? And that's would have been totally hosed if that happened. But anyway, she was partial to mashed yam and mashed banana, and so
Anansi
decided
to use
in
this.
his plan. So what he did, he went off home, he mashed some banana and some yam, put it in a bowl. He went out and he gathered some sticks and twigs and leaves, bound them together, covered them in sticky gum from a tree, painted a nice smiling face on it, put them both by a place he knew Motar would like to play, scuttled off and waited for her arrival.
Motor came up, saw the bowl of mashed yam and banana, scoffed it down. Saw the little doll. No, cheers, man. You're a real friend. Hello? Oi, mate. Talking to you. Oi, mate, listen up.
And before you knew it, Motar had stuck all of her extremities onto the little sticking doll, and Nancy dashed up to her, got those hands of hers in sticky webs so that she couldn't touch him no matter how annoyed she was. And so, with one tied up fairy, he had all the things he needed to see the sky god, Nyame.
Nyame, mate. I found all those things you wanted for the stories.
Now, in the most bemused tone you can imagine, Nyame turned, and he said, "My Nancy, I did not expect this. I thought you'd die like all these others who wanted my stories." But a promise is a promise, and a promise of God must be kept. Hand them over to me. Dad sent me the python. But the spots are not over the leopard, alright? And there, the more on it. I'm not even going to ask about that. And oh, that's Mortar the fairy. And so Nyama, he bent down and he picked up his box of stories and he handed it to Anansi.
Once there were no stories in the world, but now they belong to Anansi.